This actual play is intended for mature audiences and contains themes that some viewers may find upsetting. Please check each episode's show notes for specific content warnings and enjoy the show with care.
Okay, we are back to Hargrave House in London for the Between. A bit of housekeeping. I had one thing wrong from my drafts, which is related to the side threat, the Reaver's last victim. That is actually, that's a 5-night phase counter, not a 3-night phase counter. So you have a couple extra nights to get that one sorted, just as a little aside there. And I think that was it for housekeeping things. Let's go ahead and just do a recap. So, last time you made terrific progress on Sally No Face. You currently have 10 clues on Sally No Face. That is ready to be answered. Any of those 3 questions is very answerable now. I don't think you need to do any further investigation on that. I suppose you can, but there's kind of nothing else to be learned, I don't think. So that was in good shape. You do have this side threat, the Reaver's last victim. You currently have 2 clues on the 2 complexity question there. The St. James's Street ghost was your new one. Wow, what a threat. It's as an aside, it's very interesting to introduce this in the middle of the campaign and not in the beginning of the campaign. It has a really different, it lands differently to me because it's normally a session 1 threat. But in any case, this is the one where, for Michelle's benefit, this is the one where there is this house on St. James's Street, this townhouse that is haunted, and Hargrave House is trying to figure out like what will let this ghost pass on to the next world, right? They learned about it by looking at an old issue of the Illustrated Police News, which is an old Penny Dreadful, and apparently some months prior, the housemaid died of shock, and Ms. Jean-Baptiste determined that this was a genuine haunting, that it was a ghost that killed her. And so Hargrave House is on it. You only have 2 clues, but boy, do we have a lot of context there. There's a really strong sense that the nursery, which they have put in the attic for reasons that are kind of dark and disturbing, the nursery is haunted, maybe, or maybe it's the baby. Maybe there's some combination of those things. But in any case, that's the deal there. Now, I will tell you that this is also on a timer. This is just a 3-night phase timer. Basically, every night phase that passes, part of the house collapses. And after the 3rd night phase, the house collapses completely. And the ghost is no longer tethered to that spot. So just know that. And I do like to check in with the hunters as well in terms of recapping, just to get really more for me than anything, just to get a glance at conditions. Haskell picked up marked by D.I. Fairweather. D.I. Fairweather, a very, very malevolent seeming detective inspector from Scotland Yard, someone to keep an eye out for. Dr. Mortimer has hypocrite as ever, and ill-gotten adventure. I don't remember where that came from, Jess, but do you?
Yes, I believe it came from when I was facing down against Gastrell. And I attempted to give him a bit of a dressing down and failed somewhat beautifully, and had to use a mask then.
Yeah, the Gastrell situation is interesting, right? Haskell and Dr. Mortimer discovered that so a number of weeks have passed between sessions, Ms. Quinn, and they discovered that in that time Dr. Gastrell had unearthed a Roman ruin beneath the mortuary and was down there holding court or something down in this abandoned temple, and Haskell basically went down there and punished Dr. Gastrell for attacking Dr. Mortimer.
I heard it was gravity that punished him.
Yes, it was indeed. Yes. Ms. Quinn, you don't have any conditions. Ms. Jean-Baptiste has 3, marked by Mary Alice Beale, the baby. We still have Ms. Quinn's secret. That's the one that can be burned to create a lot of trouble for both of you, really. And then marked by D.I. Pettigrew, a less menacing member of Scotland Yard, but more annoying than menacing, I would say. And so that's where things stand there. You have 5 mastermind clues for your 8 complexity mastermind question. Are there any questions from all of you before we start?
Have we got some unresolved prompts to narrate?
I don't recall. Maybe.
Definitely body parts.
Yes, a couple of body parts.
Certainly do.
If that's all right.
We can start with that if you'd like.
Yeah, absolutely.
Let's do it.
We can do that. So I believe what I marked down from the last session, what I took from Gastrel, was his blood. Quite literally couldn't have anything aesthetic of Gastrel on the child. No, certainly not. And blood for Cora was an incredibly traumatic thing to see. Having wanted a child for so long, Cora, whenever she got her monthly bloods, her lunar cycle, it was almost like it took a piece of her soul every time. And while we shared weeks, months, was it years, together, 1 week of every month was spent lamenting, crying, sobbing in that godforsaken back room. And the stories of how her husband had left her and how to continue with the ballet, this is what she was forced to do. I never liked the word forced. Never liked that. It all came down to these bloods. Which leads to the legs. There are a few occasions where she needed tending, and the blood would trickle down her thigh, around the patella, the knee, down the shin. Usually, blood would not make Mortimer squirm. But in this instance, in the way it trailed, in the walls it left on her skin, down the rivulets of those legs that I would usually so greatly enjoy seeing stretched out on the stage, expanded to their full capacity. Here it was as if they were part of a curse, and I couldn't stand it.
Fantastic. Is that all? Very good. Thank you. I was enwrapped. Very good. I don't remember if anyone else had Janus Mass that needed to be narrated, but if you discover you do at some point in the session, just let me know and we'll do it. Okay. If you haven't done so and you wish to, you can certainly change your elective dawn questions right now to get new role-playing targets if you wish. And then we go straight into the day phase. Right now, you have 2 active threats and 1 side threat, which means I'm entitled to introduce a 3rd active threat. And I'm going to do that, bringing your total threat count to 4. The new threat is called Nutcracker. A retired hunter, a former member of Hargrave House, Rabbi Rebecca Solomon, has sent a letter to Hargrave House. She asks for assistance in cracking a case rather close to home. The bodies of 3 dancers from the Royal Ballet have been discovered, encased in ice and posed as sculptures throughout the city. The dancers are Basil Lagarde, 17, posed skating at Regent's Lake Park; Massimo Ossani, 19, found praying at Solomon's own synagogue; The soaring Lambros, 29, crucified outside St. Paul's Church. Each body has been gelded. The ballet's winter season threatens to be cancelled, and Rabbi Solomon, indeed a patron of the ballet, wants the so-called sculptor caught. She has determined the killer works at the theater, but she is forbidden to speak to staff due to previous recreational trespasses. A question that I pose to all of you, perhaps most interesting to Dr. Mortimer. The ballet is well known for its secrecy. What wild rumors have you heard about its approach to discipline?
There is a rumor. I couldn't tell you who spread it, but there is a rumor that when one of the dancers slips up or falls on stage on a large night, they pay their dues by, afterwards, standing on point for no less than 25 minutes. And for every single minute, they are watched by some unknown presence in the theatre itself. If they come down even a few seconds early, they hear a voice. Again. Again. And it does not stop till those 25 minutes are had.
I have heard a rumor that in the back cupboard there is a costume left over from a previous staging of a Christmas show. It is, or rather it was once upon a time, a lovely little mouse costume, but over the years it has aged, and a punishment given to younger members who don't necessarily know their place. They are sewn into that costume and left there for a few days. Be as quiet as a mouse and know your place.
I think there's a fairly well-substantiated rumor going around that anyone who as much as wobbles in the middle of a lift is forced to hold, after the performance is finished, in the middle of the stage, a full chamber pot above their head for several hours.
I heard a rumor that the dancers must smile always to make their dance look effortless. And I heard that if their smile ever wavers and gives way to a face of concentration, there is a strange contraption they are forced to wear upon their face for the remainder of the night and the following day, which will hold the corners of their mouths up.
This is quite a sacrifice for artistic expression, I feel. You have 3 questions here, any one of which can be answered in order to resolve the threat. The first is, where does the sculptor carve his works? This is a complexity 4. Resolve the threat by laying a trap for the sculptor, then capturing or destroying them. Or, what winter tradition does the sculptor still enjoy? Complexity 6. Resolve the threat by celebrating with the sculptor, luring them into the hands of the police. Or, how does the Royal Ballet train its featured dancers? Well, I think we've seen some of that already. It's a complexity 8. Resolve the threat by empathizing with the sculptor and promising fresh materials, unlocking the new move, Dance of the Nutcracker. You have an aspect of the Janus mask available on this threat called the Mask of Perfection. And as ever, this threat is on a timer. You have 5 night phases. This is strictly out of character information, although it might become more in character as we go. But after 5 night phases, if you do not resolve this threat, the sculptor completes his masterwork on Christmas Day, plunging London into years-long despair. The campaign ends immediately. So, with all that on the table, one more thing, just to make it even more interesting. Newspaper reports that some of the rooms in the 3rd floor of 18 St. James's Street collapsed. No one was hurt, thankfully, but the family is worried about the great expense and possibly being made destitute. The newspaper is happy to report, however, that wealthy philanthropist Theodora Brathwaite has stepped in to not only cover the family's expenses, but has agreed to buy the property as well. Just something to be mindful of. And so, with everything on the table, I'm going to go around our table and see what everyone's interested in doing today. I'm going to start with Ms. Jean-Baptiste.
I don't want to deal with this baby. So, I would like to have a vulnerable scene with Dr. Mortimer at some point today, probably early. I think Haskell needed to talk to me as well. And then beyond that, I think I may. I have a question above table. So I took the Cosmic Passage last game, which avails to me the orrery in the map room.
Oh, it does. Yeah.
What phase of play do I need to activate that in?
Whenever you want. I don't think
Whenever
it's
I
limited
want.
to days. Yeah.
Excellent. We'll do it a little later.
I mean, obviously, it sounds like a good nighttime scene, but,
Yeah.
but you may not. Who knows how the night's going to go? So you can do it whenever you want.
Okay. In that case, then I don't want to deal with this baby, but I feel like I have to deal with this baby. So I'll be attending St. James Street once more.
Well, things are definitely on the move there, right? So that makes sense to me. I'm going to let Ms. Quinn go last just because you're still a little getting caught up, I assume, Michelle. So Dr. Mortimer then.
I think it's going to be so incredibly clear where Mortimer wants to be and will go. Whereabouts are the bodies of these sculptures? Are they still dotted around, or have they been taken to the
They
mortuary?
are at different mortuaries in the city.
Different
So you can only
mortuaries.
travel to one at a time, but you can go see any of them you wish.
Mortimer has seen Hermes the Soaring Lambros more times than she can count. He was an absolute staple of the scene. She is distraught that he has been ripped from this mortal coil and will go to the mortuary where he is.
Fantastic. Haskell?
So I'm going to go to St. James's Street, but to the house further down the road where we found out that there was fabric being manufactured for that warehouse.
Being purchased from there. Yeah.
Purchased from there.
And sent to this warehouse. Yeah.
Yeah. I want to go and have a poke around there. And as I'm in the vicinity, I'll go and have a look around at this this alleged taunting. But I would like to have a very brief scene with Miss Jean-Baptiste before we leave Hargrave House, if possible.
Fantastic. Okay, so Ms. Quinn, then, what do you think about for your day?
Well, apparently no one wants to speak to me. I think Miss Quinn is she's sitting at perhaps the breakfast table, looking over notes, catching up with what she's missed while she's been off doing something. And I think she'll sort of be muttering, haunted baby. She'll read this letter from the rabbi, and she'll glance up at Dr. Mortimer. She'll stand and say, that's a good thing I never bother going to the ballet. And I think she's going to make to leave, thinking she'll be looking into this strange new case, when she spots the dried up, desiccated bouquet of flowers left by Anton Farrow's brother all those months ago, and she does wonder, I'd rather lost track of that. So maybe she'll go and see to that first.
Remarkably altruistic from Ms. Quinn, I feel. But I love it. Fantastic. Why don't we frame up this scene, this very quick scene with Haskell and Jean-Baptiste.
So Haskell can be found up a stepladder, and he is doing some restoration work of a portrait in Hargrave House, a portrait of 5 hunters, and the painting is entitled Hargrave House 1778. And he notices Miss Jean-Baptiste. He's wearing those kind of jeweler's glasses with the multiple lenses as he kind of delicately goes about his work with a small sponge. He says, morning, Miss Jean-Baptiste.
I believe when you see Phoebe, one of the first things that you notice is her right hand is thoroughly stained with what looks like a mix of ink or charcoal or both, and it has spread to her face, like she has touched her face and not realized. And she looks around, hearing your voice and not knowing where it's come from. Haskell?
Up here, miss. If you look down in my my tools, you'll find some white spirit to help you with the little something you've got just here.
Got what? What do you mean?
And then Haskell just carries on. He says, I confess I enjoy this part of my tasks at Hargrave House. I think something about the restorative nature of this appeals to my meticulous ways. And then he kind of looks at what he's doing. We can see up close what he's doing, and he's actually working on a segment of Godfrey Rathomir. Up close, we're actually seeing that he's working on the face of this portrait. And Haskell says, well, once you get through the varnish, you can see the previous restorations, you can see the other layers of paint and what's been added or perhaps changed. And we can see that a previous restoration has filled in some of Godfrey Rathomir's hairline to make it look a little more full. And we also notice something else in this painting, because the whole thing is kind of cracked and blistered. The canvas is old. But there's one person in the portrait who looks remarkably like Miss Quinn. And that part of the portrait is unblemished. And Haskell never has to touch up that piece. And he says to Miss Jean-Baptiste, it's somewhat interesting what you can find beneath the layers when you start to peel them back. And with that, I think he kind of just tidies up and leaves. But I think, Miss Jean-Baptiste, if you return to your quarters, you will find that map that I borrowed off you last time. And it has been somewhat restored. It was a map of Great Britain with ley lines written through it. That all kind of converged in London. And it said, don't follow the ley lines. Well, you can see that top layer of paint has been stripped away. And it is not a map of Great Britain. The ley lines are still there. You can tell that it's very much a historical close-up of London. And those ley lines converge on where Hargrave House would be. And the text now reads, follow the ley lines.
I think when Phoebe finds this map, it's not a moment of true elation or relief. It's deep, deep concern.
Fantastic, thank you. Ms. Quinn, I'll remind you how the investigation works for the Reaver's last victim. You have to say where you're going and essentially narrate a scene about one of the previous victims that gives you a clue about the current or about this most recent unfound victim. But before all that, this is the first year that Christmas has become something of a citywide obsession this winter. No longer just a private religious ceremony. It's starting to become somewhat commercial. It all sort of started when Queen Victoria erected the first Christmas tree, a novel idea, in Buckingham Palace, and now they have a Christmas tree erected in a prominent square. I'm curious what your thoughts are on all of this.
I think it's dreadfully gaudy to bring a tree indoors and put silly little trinkets on it. Though when I pass the large one in the square, it is quite fun seeing myself reflected back in all of those walls.
Fantastic. Where do you go?
I'm going to the house of William Farrow and his aging mother, just to see if it's too late, I suppose, and I can put this whole sorry affair to rest.
Interesting indeed. I like this. Do you want to answer the question right now?
Do I want to answer the question? I had a thought of a clue that I might want to add first, but I suppose I could just try and answer it.
Well, let's review the rule. It says you can't do the information move. Rather, once per day, whenever you take the time to do so, you can narrate a short scene where you visit one of the crime scenes of Roger the Reaver, talk to relatives of the victims, etc. Go through records, whatever. They must then you name and describe one of the victims as part of this, and then you find a clue. So with all that in mind, what does this look like?
I knock on the door, and it is answered by William. And of course, when he sees it's me, any friendliness that might have been in his eyes disappears, and his sardonic expression returns, and he informs me that yes, his mother is still alive, but he feels that she may well be in her final days. And it was months since he came to speak to us, so why on earth have I shown up now? And Cecelie sort of hears this, but she doesn't quite take it in, because she just happens to notice over his shoulder the little side table in the hall. There's an awful lot of dried, desiccated carnations. And there's a vase with, surely, obviously, the carnations aren't blooming anymore. It's winter, and yet there are still sticks, as though someone's continued to go to the same place and keep cutting more flowers. And Cecelie says, "It's odd, Mr. Farrow, don't you think, that Roger the Reaver's last victim was your brother Anton, when there was no documentation about him found, and in fact, he wasn't reported missing until a few days after Roger the Reaver was brought in. I always thought that young lady Lydia, who was found in the sewer system, was the last victim. That poor girl who sold matchsticks. Until you came forward." I think he slams the door in my face.
I mean, I will push into this a little bit and ask if is this maybe an opportunity to use taketh away or more darkly giveth?
Oh, I like that idea. I think that as he tries to slam the door, Cecelie's foot jams it, and it crunches on her toes painfully before she pushes it back open and leans, so just her face is poking through the gap. And she says, if your mother wants to die at peace, it's probably best that she not know the truth. But I know the truth, William. So don't you ever darken my door, the door of Hargrave House. Don't you ever get in our way ever again. I don't even want to see you, not even by mistake.
I'd like the scene. He goes, I don't know how you put the pieces together, but you should know. You should know that I adored Roger the Reaver. I worshipped him and his work. And I think that your time with him, perhaps he has influenced you. Perhaps you are the same person. Maybe you are Roger the Reaver. Or at least you are the vessel that holds the spirit of him. And he takes your hand and says, I can be a great asset to you. I can do things. I'm willing to do things that others aren't willing to do. You have but to let me. You have but to let me show you my devotion. And so you have the option here of giveth or taketh away.
Cecelie looks down at where he's grasping her wrist, and ever so slightly between her glove and the sleeve of her blouse, his hand is touching her skin. And she says, I am not a vessel. I am what vessels contain. And you are worth nothing to me. And as she's talking, she reaches into her bag. She pulls out a very sharp letter opener. And in a moment, she knocks the door open and plunges it through his neck.
Nice. Very good. That does trigger taketh away. Would you destroy a side character physically, spiritually, or socially? And I think it was maybe some combination of all three here. How does it make you feel?
Powerful.
Please scar your reflection and roll with vitality.
Vitality. That is 1. So, I rolled a 5. So I don't think I get anything. I think it goes very wrong indeed. Oh dear.
Does go very wrong indeed. Let's go to the Dr. Mortimer and Haskell scene, whoever wants to frame that up. And if a vice is in play, I'd love to know what that is, especially.
I believe it was Ms. Jean-Baptiste. And
and Dr.
that was
Mortimer,
the, yes.
Yep, go ahead.
I think at some point in the morning, Dr. Mortimer, a servant of Hargrave House, calls for you with a message from Miss Jean-Baptiste.
Oh, absolutely. A physical letter or words? Speak up, man.
Yes, well, she wasn't quite clear. She just requested that you come, and what did she say? Tell her to bring the bag.
Oh, God, again, right. Yes. As you were,
Thank you, Mom.
Mortimer gets up from the table. She hasn't seen the Nutcracker case yet. She gets up from the table, quickly runs downstairs to the laboratory that just behind the laboratory, that is where she keeps the child, a separate, secret, a second laboratory, if you will. Rummages around quite quickly, grabs several vials, a small wooden chest with a handle on top, locked at 3 different sides, grabs that, runs, sprints up the stairs, up towards where Miss Jean-Baptiste's room is. Where is Miss Jean-Baptiste's room in Hargrave House?
Oh, I imagine, I'm not quite sure how tall Hargrave House is.
However tall you want it to be.
I would imagine probably like 2nd story. No balconies, but large windows that are covered. And as you approach, the door is slightly ajar, mostly closed, and you can hear it before you even enter, this furious scratching.
We're having one of those again, right? And she raps quite sharply on the door. Miss Jean-Baptiste? Phoebe? Answer me.
You hear the scratching slow and then stop. And then slow footsteps towards the door. Dr. Mortimer. Dr. Mortimer. Hello. What brings you here this fine morning? No, I asked for you to come.
Mortimer very deftly sort of puts a hand up to your face and just waves it slowly. Oh, you are the worst. I have seen you in a while. Come in. Get back in. The others cannot see this. What does the room look like as she shuffles you back inside and pushes the door closed behind us?
The room is not as bad as you've seen it before, but there is a scattering of papers, and you can see there are drawings and what looks like it could be writing, but some of it is so fine and so thin that it is just scribbles on a page. And you can see some of these drawings reflect things that are, to you, I suppose, would appear nonsensical, but you can see some members of Hargrave House in there as well. And you see Haskell with the dagger in his hand in a moment that you remember from the vampire fight, and you can see Cecelie with a single tear coming down her cheek, and you can see yourself, but the moment that you see is of you, your eyes peering through a keyhole, and you know that Phoebe did not see that. She was not there.
Mortimer takes this in, shakes it off, looks at you. When was the last time you partook?
And Phoebe frowns, looks at the drawn curtains in the room. Well, I rather found myself run out, and then I don't think it's been that. What day is it?
Tuesday.
Actually, Tuesday.
The 10th of December.
The 10th of December. I think it was possibly the One of the S numbers. Yes, one of the
Right.
S numbers.
Onto the bed with you, please. This is... What have I told you about withdrawal, Phoebe?
Well, you see, I found myself. I thought I was doing rather well.
You
I don't
always think you are doing rather well, and then I usually tend to find you in some hovelsome hole, charcoaled up to the elbows, and with that, she sort of pulls up your arm and sees the charcoal stains and the charcoal around your face. And this nonsensical...
I mean, it's rather sensical. I've been hearing so many things lately. In fact, I could tell you, I can't quite see it on your face, actually. But no, they said something about your eyes. Or was it Miss Quinn's eyes? I can keep a secret, you know, Dr. Mortimer. If
Can
there is
they
something
now?
that...
And she begins
Yes,
to open
absolutely.
the box and pull out a variety of needles, and then from the very top of the box, she flips that open, and a fine white powder lines one of these sort of black velvet compartments. She pulls that out and begins preparing it as drugs are prepared. Starts flicking sort of surgical syringe, making sure there are no air bubbles, all the while listening to Miss Jean-Baptiste ramble, and particularly perking up whenever there is a mention of Cecelie, and listening and then going back. Now lie on the bed, if you don't mind.
Oh, but things get so very spinning, spiraling. I need to go back to Beale Street and speak to the baby. I think that is terribly important.
Of course you do. And with that, she sort of semi-gently, semi-forcefully pushes you down onto the bed, keeps you still, pulls out a tourniquet, wraps it around your arm, and then just sort of begins rolling up the sleeve that you have on.
Mm-hmm.
What does Jean-Baptiste's arm look like? Just out of interest.
You do see the evidence of several track marks. Some of them are older. She switches arms, and you know that if you looked at her feet as well, you would see them there as well.
She presses gently and tries to find a site that isn't infected or sore or oozing in any way. And then just sort of goes, looks you in the eye and goes, "Oh, tell me about, what was it you just said? Say that again."
That had to go to Beale Street.
And then she pushes it in. To Beale Street, you say? To Beale Street. Wonderful, wonderful.
Yes, that baby. You were there. I think you were looking for a fire, which I couldn't see the fire at the time, but I think that perhaps Beale Street will collapse in on itself, and then we'll be able to set fire to it. We'll set fire to the remnants of Beale Street once it is all crumbled into ash. I think that is a pleasant idea.
Of course, my darling. We will absolutely set fire to all of London if you so wish it. Now, what I have given you is some of my finest stock. So I believe that is now at least one favor you owe me. When you are a little bit more lucid, we will discuss the terms. But unless there is anything you would like to share with me now.
And you see visibly as it starts to enter her bloodstream, the blessed morphine. Phoebe begins to calm down. No, I rather think that is... Doctor, there was a man, detective. That's what I needed to talk to you about. There was a detective. He came to see me before I went into that house. You have accumulated body parts, and Scotland Yard is aware.
Nonsense. Utter nonsense. I would never accumulate body parts.
that rather odorous man that you brought to the church inclines me to think otherwise. It's fine. Like I said, I can keep a secret like I keep Miss Quinn's secret. And the secret that I can see you have for her. Oh, Dr. Mortimer. That's so sweet. Should act. You should do something. You should tell her, and also do something about the body parts before D.I. Pettigrew comes for you.
Enlightening as ever when you're in one of these fits, Miss Jean-Baptiste, I do assure you. And thank you for sharing all of this valuable information. I will endeavour to ensure that this Pettigrew fellow is taken care of. And no need to bother yourself with any of the rest. I would be sure not to run out of supply again. I am, of course, always on hand, but a last resort. This is the good stuff.
Smug look in your voice. I hate that from you.
I know. And with that, she packs up the rest of the box, grabs the handle, and just as she leaves the room, could she grab the piece of paper that has Cecilie's wanted drawing on it?
She's not going to stop you.
Ooh. Yep. Her hand hovers over the one that has her leaning by the keyhole, and then she chooses to take Cecilie's instead, and she leaves the room.
We will resolve the mechanical parts of the vulnerable move in a moment, clearing condition, finding a clue. But as you're getting ready to leave the room, Dr. Mortimer, you hear from downstairs, ring, 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 ring. Someone is ringing the front doorbell. Ring, 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 ring. Quite insistently.
Haskell? Haskell?
Haskell's over at St. James's Street.
Oh, typical.
And there aren't many other servants in the house. Let's pick up with Haskell, though. Haskell, it's a bright, cold December day on St. James's Street. You will see almost immediately upon turning onto the street or the part of it where the Beals live, you will see quite a lot of you'll see workmen and stuff around their house and you will see the damage, a great big corner of it is just collapsed in. The attic is perfectly intact though, and the rest of the house is still standing. You will also have the address of this house where all of this fabric was being purchased from, the fabric that was sent to this warehouse in Limehouse, or maybe it was Whitechapel. But in any case, a lot of Jenny Johnston's friends and family are sewing garments in that warehouse for some purpose. And so what do you do?
So I think Jenny said it was abandoned as well, this house, or there was no one that seemed
no
to live
one's
there.
seen coming and going, yeah.
So how many doors along is it from 18?
Not many. Maybe just
Not
a few.
many.
Yeah.
Okay. So I think we see Haskell arriving at the gate, and he kind of just pops the clasp and stands to see if anyone's watching him. It's a relatively normal day. It's a Tuesday. There are people about, but we see Haskell nod to someone, a kind of a squat woman who is sitting atop a carriage. Looks like she wouldn't stop until you were dead in a fight. And she gives him a wink, and after a beat, she lets one of her horses loose, and everyone on the street turns to look at this horse, and Haskell gets out a jimmy and pops the door open.
Interesting. This is going to be the day move. What do you afraid is going to happen if you fail?
That I'll be seen, and the law enforcement will be on my case again.
This is going to be with composure.
Mm-hmm. That is a 9, but I would like to mask it because I really don't want the complication.
I'll tell you what the complication is. You can decide. The
Okay.
complication is you will be seen, but the person will not call the authorities. They're more annoying than anything.
I really want to get away clean here, so I think I'm going to do it.
Very well. You go ahead and do that. We'll keep the scene going for a bit. Go ahead and mark your mask for now.
Mm-hmm.
By all initial impressions, the house is empty. There is people. There is furniture. It's all covered with drop cloths. It's very likely that this address is simply being used as an address for invoices by somebody who doesn't really want to be seen or know where they're at. And yet, as I paint the scene, everyone, there are subtle signs, nevertheless, that there has been someone here recently. What are they?
I think there's a half-finished card game in progress that's just been left on the table in the kitchen. But Haskell doesn't know this card game. It seems odd, and the cards are strange.
I think beside the card game, there's a small, it's hardly considered a dinner plate, but atop it is a teacup with dregs of liquid inside that have not dried.
Every so often around the place, in the dust and grime that's built up, there's very fresh marks, as though someone's just kind of doodled absently. Little smiley faces. Some smiles are all wrong, though. They all look a little bit more like grimacing faces.
Usually in a house that's abandoned or has been left, there is a very strong musk, that lingering sort of sense of the lives that were once here, and then it just sort of decays. But the air in here is fresh. Someone's aired it out. The windows have been open. And it smells like Christmas in here somehow.
And with that, one less subtle sign. There's a fire lit in one of the rear sitting rooms. The distinct crackle of fire on firewood. What do you do?
I think Haskell will pad slowly towards... Is it in a room off the corridor, or...?
Yeah, like there's the corridor, and then there's a couple of little, kind of common rooms, and then there's this, sitting room.
Yeah, I think he will, pad along and kind of sidle up to the door and just see if he can hear any sign of life inside.
This could be an information move, but I like it better as a day move. What do you afraid is going to happen if this goes wrong?
I'm afraid that whoever's in here really doesn't want me in here, and I'll get roughed up, I suppose.
Yeah, roll with composure again.
That's a 6.
You are grabbed from behind by 2 very large, very rough men. They kick open the door, push it open, and they shove you inside this room. The rest of the house is all drop cloths and dust and not being used. But this room is decorated like Christmas. There is a tree. There is tinsel on the mantle. There's the smell of chestnuts. There is the smell of spirits. And they take you and they throw you down in front of a chair. Sitting in the chair is a boy. He's no more than 13 years old, maybe. And he is dressed like Christmas. He has a jacket that looks like kind of stripy tartan wrapping paper. and like a bow functioning as a little like a little brooch or boutonniere thing. And he's wearing polished shoes, and he looks very, very dapper, I'd say. Christmassy dapper. And he says, well, 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 who is this? And you're just like on the ground. And these two people have shoved you in there. We'll come back to the scene in a moment. One last thing with Ms. Quinn, then we'll take our first break. Ms. Quinn, I love everything as you've described it. Killing William Farrow in his doorway. You hear the shatter of a dropped teacup and look up and see Mrs. Farrow, elderly Mrs. Farrow, in her gown. And she just collapses to her knees. What is this? What have you done? What have you done? And we'll take a 5-minute break here. Before we answer the door, Dr. Mortimer, I do want to check in on the vulnerable move. Ms. Jean-Baptiste, what were you aiming to clear there?
I was aiming to clear marked by D.I. Pettigrew.
Very
thoroughly
good.
Putting that onus onto the doctor.
Indeed. Did you want to clear one, Dr. Mortimer?
Oh, if I may, I don't think I really indulged in anything vice-related on my behalf, so I don't.
You don't have to be part of the move, though. You can still clear a condition.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
In which case, I think that would classify as an ill-gotten adventure
So,
within
yeah.
Miss Jean-Baptiste's room. So
quite enough ill-gotten adventures for one week.
And how?
You do also, both of you, get to define a clue for one of the active threats. Any of the threats you wish. Maybe it's something that Ms. Jean-Baptiste you see in your visions. Maybe it's something else. But if you have any thoughts on that now, I'd love to hear it. But otherwise, we can save it for later.
I would love to define one of the pictures in Phoebe's room, one of the drawings that she has done, shows the crib in the attic, but the baby is not in the crib. It is not in the rocking chair. It is not against the walls or even at the window. It is stood in the middle of the room on its own 2 feet, staring directly at whoever has drawn it.
That's a great clue. Whoever wants to note that down in whatever way makes the most sense, please do. And another little bit of housekeeping before I forget for Ms. Quinn. I think it's probably fair to say that a clue for the Reaver's last victim is that William Farrow killed Anton Farrow. So you can note that if you haven't already done so. Let's pick up, though, with Dr. Mortimer. Do you answer the door, Dr. Mortimer? No one else is around.
Yes, coming. Yeah, throws open the door. She's still got that sort of wooden box in hand and keeps it down to her side. Yes.
Good morning. Although I suppose really it's good afternoon now, isn't it? Oh, you don't remember me. I'm Detective Inspector Pettigrew from Scotland Yard. You'll recall, well, Dr. Mortimer, perhaps you'll remember I asked for your help last year when all those pigs were turning up dead in Shoreditch. If I remember correctly, you told me that to use my skills of surgery on a pig would be entirely beneath my training and education, or something like that, I think is what you said.
Yes, I do remember you now, of course, yes. Surgery on pigs. I laughed about that for quite some time.
D.I. Pettigrew is wearing a heavy coat, and he has his little tweed jacket underneath, and he's got his little tiny mustache, and he says, "Well, do you mind if I come in?"
Well, that will depend entirely
Splendid.
upon
Thank you so much. And he just pushes through. My goodness, I've always wondered what the inside of this place looks like, and I have to say it is quite, well, I don't know if grand is the right word. Grand is the sort of thing that's a word that inspires feelings of, like you were experiencing something religious or heavenly, or this is a bit more dour and grim, wouldn't you say?
I prefer the term historical, but...
Historical, interesting, yes. I fully expect a hunchbacked fellow to come clambering down the stairs at some point soon. It's quite a space.
Isn't it just? And unfortunately, Haskell's just out at the moment, but if you would like to come through with me...
Haskell, yes, that...
Yes.
Oh, that would be your servant, yes? He's looking at his little notebook.
Servant is a little beneath him. He is my employed help.
Very good, very good.
Yes.
And how many people would you say work here in Hargrave House, in total?
Hard to tell. At any given point or day, at the very least. As you can tell, she motions up to some of the portraits on the wall. We are an ever-growing, ever-shrinking, ever-multiplying, ever-dividing number. But currently, I believe, 4 to 5 reside here.
Well,
I don't keep tabs on all of them. That is not my job.
There are so many things that are not your job, aren't they, Dr. Mortimer?
Correct. Please come through to the, I assume we have some sort of like parlor or like a salon for holding clients.
This is lovely, very lovely. Yes, much more comfortable than the foyer. Can I sit?
If you're able, yes.
Would you sit?
No, I'm, as you can possibly tell, about to head out. I would much prefer to keep this as brief as humanly possible. Tell me, Pettigrew, why is it exactly you are here? I assume no more pigs have arrived in Shoreditch.
No, Dr. Mortimer, no. I did, in fact, come to see you. Well, I'm sure you've heard by now that there are strange rumors going around in the city about you and your activities.
I have, indeed. My compatriot, Miss Phoebe Jean-Baptiste, was kind enough to fill me in. I'm quite curious as to where these rumors have sprouted up from.
Well, I don't know about sprouted up. It is exactly how I would put it. We actually have had a number of people come to us directly expressing some concerns about missing body parts, and your name was mentioned several times in connection to those. And well, you know, we turned the right people upside down, shook them around a bit, and yes, I have it confirmed, in fact, that you are directly responsible for the desecration of some corpses in recent weeks. We talked to some of, well, I don't know if they're your colleagues as such. They like to call themselves, well, what they really are is grave robbers, but they give themselves this high-minded name of resurrection men. They gave you up quite easily, I fear.
Oh, let me guess. Is that one Harley? What was his name? I can't remember how Gastrell pronounced it. Sean White, maybe?
Dr. Mortimer, let's get right to it. What are you doing in the city? Are you a danger to the public?
Do you think I could possibly be a danger to the public? Oh, you flatter me, sir. No, absolutely not.
Dr. Mortimer, we have killers abound. We have someone going about taking people's faces, someone else taking ballet dancers, you know, and now you going about taking hands and hearts and who knows what else.
I assure you,
help me out here.
I have no idea, absolutely no idea what you are talking about. If this is in relation to any of the work that I was employed to do by Dr. Gastrell, then I would suggest asking him about the matter.
Please make the day move. What do you think is going to happen if you lose control of this conversation?
I am quite afraid that there will be a search conducted of Hargrave House for said missing body parts, and they will find more than they are ready for.
Indeed. Go ahead.
Okay.
Composure.
Composure. Okay. Boxcars. That's
very
2
good.
6s and 2, so 14 in total.
Wow. On a 12 plus, you get a bonus, and I think the bonus will be a clue. We like to imagine that this conversation goes on a little bit longer than what we role play, and maybe in the middle of that, he reveals something that Scotland Yard knows about either Sally No Face or the sculptor. Your choice. You can tell me what it is.
I'll take the sculptor.
I can give you a clue, or you can come up with a clue on your own. It's your choice.
Please give me a clue. I'm really intrigued by this one, and I want to make sure that it sort of comes together as I'm hoping it will. So please give me a clue. There
is a fourth body that has not been made public yet.
I was hoping you'd say that. Okay.
The body was found, again, frozen in ice, gelded, this time in a confessional booth at a church. That's your clue. He will kind of mention that, like, we just pulled out a body out of, and he's like, oops, I wasn't supposed to say that.
Revealing sensitive information, pedigree. Ooh, from Scotland Yard's finest as well. That is disappointing, isn't it? No matter. How about this? You go on your merry way. As you can see, I have nothing to hide here. You're more than welcome to take a look around should you need to, but I will forget what I have just heard. If you are prepared to go about your merry way, look the other way this time. For I'm very busy and have so much to do. None of it involves pigs.
He looks at one of the clocks in the room and he says, "My goodness, will you look at the time? Well, thank you for being so forthright with me, Dr. Mortimer. If you do find yourself inclined to engage in some untoward behavior related to corpses, I do hope you will be a little more discreet."
Absolutely. And please, maybe just pass that message on to Gastrell as well.
Oh, you know what Dr. Gastrell is?
No idea. I haven't heard from him in a while, which is why I'm suggesting you get in contact with him. You're Scotland Yard. You're the best there is, aren't you?
Yes. Well, good day to you. And he
Good day.
leaves.
As after he leaves, like, Mortimer shuts the door and she just sort of collapses, just like, fuck. Jesus Christ.
Indeed.
Oh, God. Right. Grabs her cloak, runs, pops the box back in the laboratory, grabs her cloak, and runs out of the house. And is still going to go towards Hermes soaring Lambros. Oh, gosh. But
Jean-Baptiste, what are you doing after you're done having your moment?
Thoroughly calmed, and with a bit more of her mind about her, Phoebe has a slower start to the morning than the others, and so she comes down to a rather quiet Hargrave house. Well, I suppose there's nothing for it. I hope the child doesn't talk to me again. And she is going to head towards St. James Street to the Beale house.
Fantastic. Let me check in with the other characters and then we'll kind of get some other scenes going. Miss Quinn, are you going to use the Janus mask here, or are you going to just let this ride? I will tell you that if you let it ride, Mrs. Farrow will die of despair at her other son being, this time, murdered in front of her, and maybe even later learning that he killed her other son. And you will have to mark your reflection again, and the threat will no longer be resolvable because Mrs. Farrow will be dead. So
yes.
Those are all the things.
Interesting. I think I'll probably use the mask, yes.
Indeed. Just the options. If you want to narrate, if you do Mask of the Past or Future.
Yes, I'll be doing Mask of the Past, I think.
If you want to narrate it now, please do, or we can wait till later.
Yes. All right. Mask of the Past. It says to narrate a flashback to your childhood that shows how, even then, people were willing to suffer in order to make you happy. Cecelie feels so powerful today. Imagine yourself sitting surrounded by well-dressed people in a theatre, looking up at the curtains as you hear the last notes of an overture and applauding politely as the curtain raises on a production of The Distant Celestial. You see on the stage a young soubrette. She's an adult, but the way she has been styled in a short dress and stockings and a rather embarrassing set of bunches in her hair is clearly intended to convey that she is playing a child. The other thing which helps with this illusion is that she is holding a teddy bear and singing a sweet childish tune in her trembling soprano voice, dancing jerkily near the edge of the stage with this teddy bear, while a contralto, a grey-haired older woman dressed in a very stern and conservative dress, sings a counter melody below, warning young Cecelie, do be careful, young Cecelie. And as this governess character sings, Cecelie continues to laugh and sing in her high-pitched way and dance with her teddy bear until she drops it, and it lands just ever so close to the edge of the stage. And the young Cecelie cries out in a keening soprano. She's so very upset because her teddy could fall down. And all in a moment, the governess rushes as she sees a Cecelie reach out towards the bear. She pulls young Cecelie free from danger. She reaches forward to recover the bear and loses her footing. And there's one last note from that contralto as she falls into the orchestra pit, down off that cliff. And the young Cecelie stands and continues singing and dancing with the bear, but safe and sound, as the chorus come in and move the scene along to the next part of the opera.
Give me just the conclusion of the scene then with William. Mrs. Farrow does not see this, and just what do we see as you leave, or what does it look like?
Cecelie pulls out a cloth, wipes the knife clean, wraps it up before she puts it back in her bag. She pulls her glove, fixes it, so once again there is no bare skin between the glove and her sleeve, and she looks at the mess she has made. And she says to herself, well, thank goodness the old dear is too frail to leave her bed. I'll have Haskell come and clean this up and check she's all right. I don't think he has much to do. And she leaves to find the nearest park and see if there's a patch of carnations missing.
Fantastic. Haskell, this boy in this chair who has two big thugs, he is, by his accent, he's American, and he says, so, what are you doing poking around my employer's home?
And Haskell kind of acts flustered and says, I feel like there's been somewhat of a mistake. Let's go back to the beginning, shall we?
I would rather like to move on to the part where my colleagues beat you to a pulp.
Well, I mean, there's no need for violence. Just let me explain. I'm from Savile Row.
Wouldn't it be interesting, fellas, if we put this man's hand in the fire? They sort of like just nod. That's 3 votes for putting your hand in the fire.
And at this point, Haskell drops the act and he straightens up and he gets his cane and he pulls the knife out and he looks at the 2 thugs and he says, "Okay, which one of you ladies wants to dance?"
The boy looks delighted and he says, "I'll pick that one." And he points at one of the guys and he looks very game for it. He takes a, I think there's like a half-empty wine bottle, and he smashes it to make a weapon. And this is the day move. What do you afraid is going to happen if he gets the best of you?
At least stitches, I would have thought, and a hasty retreat.
Go ahead and roll with vitality.
It's a 7. It's a 7.
You're gonna win. I think he just kind of gets. I think he just like maybe you get bruised up in the fight a little bit. But you can describe it.
Can I mask it?
If you want to, yeah, if it means that much to you.
It does actually,
Okay.
and I can do it now without a prompt, if you don't mind.
Sure.
I'm going to mark a mask of the future, just because I enjoy where the relationships with the other hunters is going, and I say in advance to 2 of you, I'm sorry. I'm going to mark the Gilded Door.
Ooh.
The Gilded Door says, "Tell your employer to take the following condition, most beloved. Tell the other hunters they can no longer choose the Gilded Door on their own playbook. Your employer can never clear most beloved unless their playbook says otherwise."
Dr. Mortimer, you are stuck with most beloved forever. So go ahead and note that.
That's okay. I'm docking Haskell's pay. Jesus.
You have full control of the scene, Haskell. Please describe what happens.
So I don't end up having to use the knife part of what I pulled out of the dagger, and as this kind of heavyweight comes lumbering in with a big roundhouse, I think I use the cane end just to kind of trip him and send him sprawling, and it was deft enough for the other one to know that I mean business. And I kind of put the cane back together, and I think I'm going to address the kid, and I'm just going to ask who his employer is.
Wouldn't you like to know? Wouldn't you like to know indeed? But I'm afraid I can't tell you that.
Can't or won't?
Both.
God damn this kid.
I tell you what, though. I like how you handled yourself there. Would you be interested in seeking employment with me?
What would be the terms of the employment?
Well, it really rather depends. Do you appreciate the finer things in life?
On occasion, it has been known.
Well, my employer ensures that me and mine enjoy all the fine things we can handle.
Colour me intrigued.
A drink. And he grabs a crystal decanter and pours you a drink. Pours you both a drink. Does not pour the other guy a drink.
We're drinking with a 13-year-old child.
What do you want out of him? Do you want him to, what are you going to try to accomplish here?
I'd like some context. I'm really fascinated as to the link between this place and the warehouse and possibly Miss Brathwaite.
Maybe. You can keep the scene going for a bit. You're having a drink with him. He's sort of sizing you up, right? He says, So why don't you come clean? What were you really here for?
Like I said, from Savile Row, imports, exports, and I hear there's fine fabric being moved in and out of this location.
And so you decided to break into this home and check it out?
Well, I did knock.
One of the guys says, he didn't knock.
I'll knock your fucking skull in a minute.
This little back and forth goes on for a bit. He might eventually let slip what he's all about and what's going on here. He does like to talk, and especially as he drinks a little bit more, he gets a little bit more loose-tongued. You can make the information move here.
With
Presence?
10.
Nice. You learn that his employer is putting on a magnificent artistic exhibit. Something unlike anything the world has ever seen. And he can take you to it if you want. He can show you. He has the ability to get in and look. He can't tell you much more than that. Only that he says his employer is on the verge of a breakthrough. All of that is a clue for Sally No-Face. Which you don't need, really, but you have it. He says, so how about it? Tonight, I can take you there.
Am I allowed a +1?
I guess so.
Then I'll be there.
Let's figure out one last little scene for each character. I think that'll be it for Haskell. I do want to have a scene with Ms. Jean-Baptiste at 18 St. James's Street, and one with Dr. Mortimer with the body of the dancer. Ms. Quinn, is there anything you'd like to do at the end here?
I think she's ready to answer the question about Roger the Reaver, but I don't know if that's...
Let's do it. I love it. Yeah. What's your theory?
So, based on the last words of William Farrow, I think that he was something of a copycat killer. After all, the sites of Roger the Reaver's murders were all defaced in ways which seemed too fresh to have been done by the murderer who had been executed some time ago. That initial carved into the tree that hadn't grown over, the lamppost that kept breaking no matter how many times it was fixed. And he did have all of those carnations to keep cutting them, so perhaps if we find the place where somebody just keeps cutting down carnations over and over again, we might just find something buried underneath that spot.
Fantastic. Does everyone agree or have any other thoughts on this?
That sounds perfect.
I love it.
I think so too. How many clues was that then?
3.
3. Fantastic. Roll +1.
Okay. Oh, that's only 5. These dice aren't playing well today.
They are not. You can mark it. You can bump it up to a 7 to 9, meaning it's correct if you mark the mask of apathy.
Oh, I do like that mask. I think we should mark that mask.
Each hunter will narrate a flashback to a time they were hurt deeply and no one cared. Be thinking on that. We will do that very soon. And you have resolved, or you have answered the question. To resolve the threat, you simply have to find the remains and let his family, which would let his family lay Anton to rest. Ms. Jean-Baptiste, you are at 18 St. James's Street. There are workmen all over the place. The Beals are actually, they're there, but they're not there. They are gone presently because of all the work that's being done. But Irma Thicket informs you that they insisted on leaving the baby. And so...
What do you mean?
So, what do you do?
Phoebe is somehow not surprised and even more aggrieved. She's going to thank Irma for her assistance. Would you mind? Is the baby still in the attic?
And Irma nods and she says, but don't worry, she's not alone right now.
Who's with the baby?
Oh, the new fancy homeowner is up there with the baby. I suppose she's my employer now. I hope she likes mutton. And she goes downstairs.
Phoebe will begin to ascend up the stairs slowly, and as she gets to the bottom of the spiral staircase that leads up to the attic, she's going to just listen and see if she hears anything for a moment. Is this woman talking to the baby right now?
Make the information move.
Okay.
With sensitivity.
Okay. Let's see. 11.
Because you're marked by Mary Alice Beale, I'm tempted to have you throw a third die in there. I think
if
so.
you so wish.
Throw a third die.
Sure. Nine.
You do hear whispered voices. And then you hear, oh, there she is. She's listening to us now. Should we invite her in? What do you do?
Phoebe, hearing that, begins to ascend the staircase, her hand trailing along the banister. At worst, I assumed that I would have to contend with an infant, but lo and behold, I find you as her head comes through the floor. Miss Brathwaite.
Indeed, Mrs. Brathwaite is sitting on a rocking chair. She has Mary Alice on her lap. And Mary Alice has the sapphire pendant over her neck. We just keep running into each other, Ms. Jean-Baptiste. In the most unusual places, too.
I do find it rather strange.
Indeed. We'll cut there for a moment. Dr. Mortimer, I don't think I'm particularly interested in role-playing the front of the house stuff at the mortuary, so we can get straight to the body here. A body that you know reasonably well, right?
Oh, a mess.
Indeed.
Breaks my
He was
heart.
very near retirement, too.
Yes. An absolute peak physical condition. The muscles, the way he moved. You'd never be able to tell that he once broke a tibia on stage, no less. He was a true master of his craft. Whoever has done this is a coward, and I will find them. But
first you'll
now.
desecrate this body.
Oh, absolutely. But with care. I think in a lot of the cases before where Mortimer's been alone with the body, it has been a frenzy to get her hands inside and root around like a freaking possessed groundhog. But in this case, it is far more considered. It is a borderline professional as she strips it of its skin and begins just to account for everything. I assume also he's not maybe thawed completely. And so there are some elements that maybe perhaps...
Yeah, there's quite a lot of like melted ice water around still. Because it's very cold, right? It's very cold in general, so it hasn't melted very fast.
Oh, poor Maz. Just at this point, I would love to use Beneath the Skin.
Ask your questions.
How did this person die? The keeper will answer with a clue. And Pettigrew's warning is in the back of her mind. What would an untrained eye overlook here? The keeper will answer with a clue.
Fantastic. I'll give you your clues in a moment. I want to wrap up with Ms. Jean-Baptiste and Mrs. Brathwaite and Mary Alice. Yeah, so what do you say? So what do you do at this point, Ms. Jean-Baptiste?
Phoebe is looking at the rocking chair, at Mary Alice in Mrs. Brathwaite's arms. You have a fondness for children, it appears.
I have an interest in strange goings-on in the city, as you do.
Quite. You find something strange about young Mary Alice there?
Here, I'll give you the clue that I owe you. She says, well, it's just that Mary Alice is a very special baby. She speaks in whole sentences, for a start. And very eloquently, too. She's been telling me a story about a marriage proposal that went awry. Isn't that odd?
Terribly. Whose proposal?
Well, she makes it seem like it's her own. Rather strange behavior, even for a talking baby.
Would you mind relinquishing her to me so I can hear more of this story myself?
Yes, I think I would mind. But I'm glad you're here.
Oh.
And she kind of, maybe even like just instinctually, kind of taps her fingernails on the blue gem around the baby's neck. What do you know about the concept of a phylactery?
Well, I believe, according to myth and story, it is some kind of holding device for soul, perhaps? I don't know.
And would you say that such a device would have to be specially prepared in some way, or of a certain quality in make?
Were such a device to exist, I suppose if you as interested as you are in strange goings on, as you say you are, there would have to be some kind of magic involved to especially prepare this item.
Well, that's just silly, isn't it?
Of course.
Magic. I suppose I'd be curious to know if you have heard of any particular dangers associated with spirits or souls escaping phylacteries, and what one can do about that.
Mrs. Brathwaite, I find your area of interest very confusing. Phylacteries, magic isn't real.
No, of course not. How absurd.
Of course.
Well, there's nothing strange going on here.
Mm-hmm.
This little one, she stands up and raises her up. She's just a baby.
A rather intelligent baby.
She takes Mary Alice back to the crib. And I think that will wrap your day, Phase.
Mm-hmm.
Nutcracker clues from examining the body. I will tell you that this dancer was not dead before he was frozen. So that's the first clue. The second clue, you find on his arm what appear to be white hairs. Not completely unusual. Some people that age do get white hair prematurely. But you realize, as you examine them, Dr. Mortimer, they're not Hermes's hair. It's fur. It's white animal fur. That is your second clue. And with that, we shall transition into the dusk phase. I'd like to begin the dusk phase with the Mask of Apathy. So whoever would like to start, please do.
Cecelie Quinn has been at Hargrave House for a very, very long time. An amount of time which seems to make no sense given her appearance. And she has been involved in a great many cases. And they all start to blend together. They all start to seem a bit boring eventually, but there's one that just comes back to her over and over, very early in her career here, when the person, or what were they called? It doesn't matter. The hunters come and go. Who was performing the ritual to banish that dreadful beast of the Neverworld slipped up and let it get a hold of Cecelie. And she felt the life draining from her. She felt the skin becoming sallow, her blood running cold. She felt death. Death was coming for her in that moment until just at the last second the hunter got their act together. They sorted it out. The beast was gone and Cecelie was left in a crying, sniveling, hysterical heap on the ground. She remembers worse than the feeling that she was about to die. That awful, humiliating few minutes afterwards when she crawled along the ground and cried at the other hunter's feet and said, Thank you, you saved me. And he just said, I wasn't saving you, I was doing my job. And walked away.
Phoebe, when she was a teenager, still stubborn of nature, followed the trail of money that would come into their house from a benefactor that she did not know, but was aware of her relation to. And so she followed it to his household. And she did not know what to expect at the sight of her father, but she saw the features that she shared with him. And he clearly recognized what he saw to be himself in her, and he found it repulsive. His feelings had not changed. This was an obligation that he needed to fulfill, no more, no less. And as she stood in his doorway, they hardly exchanged words. He told her that the money would be sent, and that was all that she would need of him. And she did not tell her mother when she returned home where she had gone. And she sat with the knowledge, and she sits with it still.
It's Haskell's first day at Hargrave House, and we find him in the kitchen, and there is a tray prepared. On the tray next to the plate, there is all of the newspaper articles, one by one, sliced carefully out of the various publications around London, piled up, murders, bodies washed up, anything of interest. He is huddled over the stove where he is frantically whisking hollandaise sauce together, and we can see in the sink there have been dozens of failed attempts where the butter has split the sauce. Some of them are even, I would say, servable, but he wants to get this just so, and he does, and he drizzles it over his two perfectly poached eggs on a crisp English muffin, puts the metal cloche on top, and takes the tray through the halls of Hargrave House. And he approaches Dr. Mortimer's room and steadies himself for their first interaction. And just as he goes to step forward, the door flies open and smashes the tray into the air. And he falls to his knees, and there is hollandaise sauce, ham, and egg yolk everywhere. And the doctor has just thrown a bloody rag onto where the plate was. And Haskell is frantically kind of trying to clear up this thing as the blood mixes in with the yolk. And he sees all his hard work disappear, and the doctor is gone. And as he's starting to kind of fix this up to clear it away, he hears another set of footsteps coming down the hall. He doesn't really catch who it is, but it's a heavy-set man with furred collars and big, dirty boots. And as they move, they curse something at him in maybe Czech and just boot the plate into his face, and then kind of mutter off, kind of swearing into the distance.
Eveline is sat in her box at the Royal Theatre. She has before her a bottle of Jet de Telmont 1735. Because tonight was to be a special occasion. 2 glasses. Crystal. Doesn't taste right otherwise. That's how Cecelie liked it. She's paid attention over the years to the particular tastes of that infinite woman. And as the show goes on, the dancers spin, the skirts twirl, and the hours tick, it becomes evident she's not coming. She'd never come. And to really twist the knife in this wound, Mortimer had arranged for the final curtain call to bring a spotlight to the box. Benefactors of the Royal Theatre, for everyone to take a look upon Miss Quinn and admire at her beauty. She thought it would be a nice touch. And the spotlight falls upon the box. And a drunk, dour Mortimer looks down onto all of the smiling faces below and feels nothing but pure, unadulterated embarrassment.
Fantastic. Thank you, everyone. Continuing with the dusk phase. Would anyone like to answer a question? Do we want to answer the Sally question, or do we want to wait?
I think we're probably going to attempt it, but just so you know, I've got a Mask of the Past to do, and I think we've got a reflection.
We got a reflection as well. Yeah.
But I'm well up for answering Sally No Face.
I think we should.
Yeah.
Yep, same.
Let's review the clues really quickly. So blackened veins on one of the bodies was consistent with poisoning. There is a blood stain that turns out to be rouge. There's this gold embossed invitation to this exhibit that keeps coming up. A ripped up ticket stub. Someone who looks like Sally watching you all at the theater. There is a little used warehouse being used to make exquisite gowns. We also think that's the location of the exhibit. The house on St. James's Street registered as the where the invoices are being paid for these fabrics, these fabulous fabrics, just the existence of that house. A stack of increasingly florid love letters to someone named Gregory. We know Sally is very interested in preserving youth. She does not want to be alone. And this boy who claims Sally is his employer, he wants to take you to the party, to this exhibit. I'm even going to go so far as to say that it's intentional. Someone from Hargrave House has to be at the exhibit. A lot of connected clues, at least.
So which solution are we going to go for, do you think?
I think what is the true identity of the killer and what drove them to this madness? I think we've got enough to string something quite plausible together here.
Yeah, and the identity can be just like who they are generally. Like you don't need to know like the name necessarily, right?
Yeah.
So I've got a bit of a theory, if anyone doesn't mind me advancing what I have. Unless, Jess, did you have something in mind?
Not at all. Please go. Please, please.
So I think they were driven to madness by unrequited love. I think that they loved somebody who was younger than they. A man. They loved a younger man. And a man of much higher station. And I think that they were jealous. They were jealous of Clara and her youth and the fact that despite also being of low station, she clearly had a love in Gregory. They wanted to be young and to be loved like Clara. They started trying to play at being of a higher status, to be somebody who her love would want. They looked into how to create beautiful gowns so that they could dress like somebody who deserved this young, high-class man. They started putting together events or trying to forge invites to events so that they could find their way into upper-class places where this young man would be. And I don't know if this young man, whoever he was, even knew she existed. But that's what I think it might have been. I think that might have been what drove her mad.
I think that accounts for at least 1, 2, 3, at least 8 of the clues. The 3 that are kind of outliers are the blackened veins consistent with poisoning, that might speak to just who the person is, maybe, if they have access to such things. The blood stain on Clara's face that turns out to be rouge. And then I don't remember the context of the ticket stub, but those are the three that I have not been able to place yet in your theory.
I've got something extra to add that it keeps everything exactly the same, but because whoever this is putting on or involved in elaborate parties, would it make slightly more sense for it to be someone of a very high station in love with someone of a very low station? And if that low station person was Gregory, who was with Clara Yarborough, and she had to remove Clara from the equation.
It also, I actually like that because it also explains why Sally has these skills as well. Maybe she had like exceptional training because of her station or something like that, or I don't know. There might be like some, or maybe her station gives her access to the poison somehow. Like,
I wonder if Sally also found a ticket. The ticket stub is actually one of those invitations, and found it in Clara's, because Sally didn't know she had the first one because we found it on the body.
Oh, right.
I wonder if she found the other one and tore it up in front of her.
Oh, interesting. So then, because this is really interesting then. So then it sounds like maybe this kid is the linchpin of like who Sally is then, right? Because why is he working for her, and what is their connection? And here I'll remind you, you can add extra context to clues that help with the theory if it makes sense.
Well, that's why he's kept protected in this house, because he's the only person who knows Sally's true identity. He's the only one who's seen her face.
Oh, he's blackmailing her.
I was going to go one step further and try and bring in the blackened veins with poisoning into it. I don't think it was intended to be a poison. I think it was a beauty serum gone horribly awry in an attempt to preserve youth. But I think something successful worked with this child, and he's much older than he would maybe appear to be.
Old baby strikes again.
That is gonzo as hell.
That's very big. I don't know if that is quite justifiable from the clue.
Fair enough.
The blood stain that turned out to be rouge, where was that again?
That was on Clara. It was like
it was on Clara. Yeah. So then, would that have been like an attempt once she had died of recreating the makeup that she used to wear so that she could do it on herself to like impress?
That. Yeah, I think it makes a connection between like the Gregory situation, right? Like that's really intriguing.
I wonder if to take Jess's idea and to slightly tone it down a bit, but still keep it. What if the poison is intended to work as, like I say, a preservative serum, and Sally's been using it on herself, but she's used too much of it, and now she has to cover her face. But she's found out that, and that's kind of why she was after Clara's face.
Why is she taking faces? Because it's not just Clara, right? There's several people.
Yeah. So, but she's found out that it has this kind of like anesthetic effect if you administer too much of it, and it kind of freezes your face in the with the skin really tight and kind of like completely pristine. Like
that's why she's able to make the cuts so easily.
Exactly. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
It's part of what she does to preserve the faces.
And I wonder if what Wren said, that like when she's preserved this face and this kind of neutral mask, she then puts makeup on it and then takes it. So we're somewhere there's probably a ghoulish kind of like a face rack somewhere with these kind of beautifully, I don't know if you've seen like Venetian masks with the paint and stuff there. Whether it's like that.
I mean, there's an art exhibit that they're putting on. What's to say that it's not mannequins with all these beautiful dresses and masks of all of these faces?
Stop giving Jason ideas.
Sorry.
So there's a couple of things here. You have sort of inadvertently answered the first question, because you're kind of indicating that maybe wherever maybe the exhibit is the lair, right? If you want to answer the second question, or rather the third question, I think I need a definitive answer of like, I mean, maybe we could just say like you have maybe figured out like who this person might be based off the Gregory connection. I'm not sure, but like,
did we see her in the theater?
We did.
You did. That's right. Yeah.
She's it's, you know, to all about Eve. She's a faded actress who is watching the younger actresses on stage and rehearsing.
That's really good, actually. I like that a lot. Yeah.
That's what she's doing.
That's great. That ties it all together really well.
Actor / surgeon.
Yeah. Well, no, I think the surgery thing is just incidental. Like it turns out that this you know, proto Botox or whatever that she's using, like it makes the face so rigid that you can easily cut the face off, which is intriguing.
And all you really need after that is a steady hand.
Indeed. So we have this faded actress. We know what drove them to this. We need a roll. So let's see if it's correct. This is going to be plus quite a lot, +3 actually.
+3, yeah.
One thing, before we settle on the answer, I actually want to go back to the boy though. So, what is the boy's connection to the actress then? This might be why we know who she is, right?
It's a child.
Oh, it's her kid.
Her child. Ooh.
Oh, she's an actress. She travels, right? So
yes.
Maybe she spent time in America and her kids come back to find mom.
Oh my God.
We don't have to go with that.
No, that makes perfect sense, and he's blackmailing her for all she's got.
Oh yeah. He's like,
yes, and if she has a child that's 13 years old, then that will give away that she's not as young as she was.
Oh.
Yes.
That's what she's more concerned about.
Yeah.
Right? All right, so we got kind of a Norma Desmond situation going on, which I love. I love to role play such characters. So +3. Let's get it going. What do we got?
Michelle, you started this.
Oh no, I've had terrible rolls today. Are you sure?
It's +3 and we've got a mask. We'll be fine.
All right. Come on, dice. Oh, that's better. So that's 8 + 3, so 11.
If you would like to go ahead and mark the Mask of Beauty, that will bump it up to a 12. Bumping it up to a 12 makes the answer additionally a mastermind clue.
Oh, let's do that.
I feel like she's kind of tied in with Brathwaite somehow, so I think we should.
Yeah, I think so.
She definitely is now. So that is the Mask of Beauty. Each hunter narrates a flashback to a time when they felt truly beautiful. We'll find a time to do that here in a bit. So you have answered the questions. You have answered 2 questions. You have 2 threats that can be resolved. Neither of them are like near their timer finish, so you don't have to worry about that if you wanted to do a Hargrave House night phase and let the 2 active threats, or let these threats stew for a minute. But otherwise, I'd like to know what everyone wants to do if you're going to do the London night phase. So what do we think?
I think a Hargrave's House night phase might be quite good. Go exploring.
You have some breathing
Look
room
at
on
what,
the base counter. So.
We've answered 2.
Yeah, I'm up for that.
Yeah.
Okay.
You have a choice of 3 rooms. The salon, which we saw earlier with D.I. Pettigrew. The conservatory, which was Roger the Reaver's favorite house in the room when he lived there. Or the ballroom, famously the site of a diplomatic mission between the Fae realm and London.
1 vote ballroom.
Yeah, ballroom.
Ballroom.
Is that 2 or 3 votes for ballroom?
3 for ballroom.
3 for ballroom. Ballroom it is. Very well. In that case, let's take a look at, see if any of the hunter moves make any sense in here. You can do the Ghost of Hargrave House if you wish.
I'll take the prosthetic hand from the doctor, please.
Dr. Mortimer, you can't do the Resurrectionist, but this is the best time to do night work because you can get stuff done, even though Dr. Mortimer is not on screen.
It's about time to actually get some work done. Fantastic.
Indeed. So we have this aspect of the Janus Mask, the Mask of Beauty. I think we'll save that for next time. For now, let's talk about the ballroom. Everyone does prompt 1. I think prompt 2 will be Michelle. Prompt 3 will be Wren. Prompt 4 will be Jess. We're in the ballroom tonight. Ornate, sharp-edged chandeliers dangle from high ceilings. The lingering scent of floor wax, citrus, and candle smoke fail to mask a fog of musk and decay. Along a wall, a long refreshment table bears a single empty punch bowl. Paint the scene. This ballroom has gone unused for years, since a fete held for a delegation of Fae ended in turmoil. During their furious exit, the Fae marked this ballroom as anathema, tainted ground on which no Fae would tread. Which of these marks can you perceive marring the space?
So the delegation that was present were some of the highborn, noble sorts, quite beautiful to the human eye. Tipped ears, gossamer-like wings, pearly white teeth, long, silvery hair, as if they were written out of storybooks. What happened in this room that night left several of them dead. Hargrave House has never lived it down. And as they left, as a mark, they tore the wings from their dead, snapped them from the shoulder blades, nailed them into the walls, and let them fuse into the paper. So the lines of each of these wings spreads out and can be seen to this day, that pattern ever repeating.
There's a stretch of wall where the wallpaper is blistered and peeled, and upon closer inspection you will see that it is scorched, it is burnt, and it is burnt with something that was an incredibly high temperature. But it's not just a wall of charred paper. There are 2 outlines that are burnt around, and it is a couple in an embrace who got caught in the crossfire.
As the Fae left this place, they marked it as anathema by singing a mourning song for the dead. A tragic and discordant to the human ear mourning song. It rang in the ears of the humans present for months afterwards, but now, if a human is to enter that room, what they hear doesn't sound like any kind of music. It sounds like crying. It sounds like a child crying, and if they can bear to listen carefully, they realize it's the sound of themselves as a child crying.
And as they mourned their dead, and they sang this ethereal song, Fae tears are not like human tears. They do not fall and dry and vanish from sight. They linger. This ballroom, the floor of it, is covered in an opalescent sheen, ever shifting like an oil slick, of tears of the Fae.
Let's now go back to the night of the fete, some years ago. The Fae have their own arcane etiquette, elaborate and alien. How does young Maricat Ovelia, servant of Hargrave House, transgress against Fae propriety in the execution of her duties?
Maricat is hovering near the long buffet table, and she's trying not to look directly at anyone. She shouldn't make eye contact with anyone, but she says to herself, no, you make 3 seconds of eye contact before you speak. 3 seconds of eye contact before you speak. And when you speak, you do it like this. You bounce your speech. Okay. She picks up the tray of canapes and she heads forwards, keeping her eyes down, flicking them up every 3 seconds just in case a Fae happens to be looking. Then she looks back down. She heads towards some of the Fae. And she says, Would you like some canapes? Glances up for 3 seconds. And down. Glances up. And she's met with silence. So she glances up again. And then she remembers you never offer food without tasting it first to show that it's safe.
Poor Maricat. The Fae take Maricat with them to serve in the Feathered Abbey. But a part of her remains behind as a promise that one day all will be restored. Which of Maricat's body parts, still full of life, do the hunters keep in Hargrave House? How is it stored and protected?
Of Maricat's body parts, the part that the Fae determined that she would need the least of is, of course, her lungs. How they removed it is a feat known to only those who were present that day. How Maricat continued to move without air passing through her body is a curiosity, and her lungs are kept as a centerpiece on display in the ballroom, encased in what looks to be glass, but something a bit stronger, just to be clear that it can be seen that they are still moving, still inhaling and exhaling, as though Maricat would continue, that she does continue and has continued for so long. As long as these lungs inflate and deflate, Hargrave House knows that Maricat lives somehow.
Tonight, a contingent of Fae return Maricat, transformed by her time among them. As her lungs are reattached to her new form, how does Maricat speak of her time away and of the hunter whose memory gave her the strength to endure until her return?
To have been choking, breathless for 20 years. To have never slept. To have never, not for a moment, found rest. To have never forgotten the sole stupid mistake of not tasting the food. To have never felt relief. While all around you, as you choked, as you could not breathe, a world of beauty, endless beauty, danced around you. They were so perfect. It was as if beauty, they breathed it. And I could only focus on their lips and the rising of their chests. I couldn't. It was torture. Torture. Every moment. Every moment. But it was okay. For I knew what true beauty looked like. Miss Quinn. Miss Cecelie Quinn. Hunter extraordinaire. And infinite, undeniable. For all the beauty these fae possess, they would never, ever come close to her. And I held my breath, held it for 20 years in the hopes I might see her again.
That concludes the sad tale of Maricat. I will tell you that by exploring the ballroom, Maricat joins Hargrave House, and we'll talk more about how she affects things next time. I will also remind you that you each get to claim something from the ballroom for your personal quarters. This can be something that is explicitly in the scenes or that is implied from the scenes. If anyone has an idea of something they'd like to take, please go ahead and say so now.
I'm not going to break from tradition. I would like to take the lungs of Maricat, of Elia.
So she's back without lungs?
Back in
Not used to it. She's fine.
You can live with one lung.
Mortimer's been eyeing those lungs in the centerpiece of the ballroom for so many years. Now's the opportunity and chance.
Fantastic. That's fun, though. That'll give me a lot of ideas for how to roleplay Maricat when the time comes. So.
Could I have a vial of the floor tears?
Sure, yeah.
I think Haskell will take a serving tray, but it's a serving tray that the Fae brought with them. So it's on an indescribable metal, marked indescribably with very strange wards and runes.
When Maricat returns and finishes telling us about her little adventure, notices Cecelie. Cecelie looks at her and says, "A lot of people, both human and fae, died because of what you did. And she remembers exactly what Maricat's face looks like when she says that. And later on, with some charcoal she lifted from one of her fellow hunters at some point, she sketches it out, what that face looked like, and she keeps that little picture."
Fantastic. One more thing before we conclude our night phase. The same night, in a circle drawn with ash and salt, Mrs. Brathwaite is kneeling there, quite naked, her hair down. Well, she is wearing her blue sapphire, so there's that. And she's feverishly muttering, "Oh yes, yes, I can see you there. I can see you in your little boat, bobbing up and down, bobbing up and down on that vast black ocean. That vast black ocean that covered the earth when the earth was new. When it was but a place for old things, for old gods. That vast black ocean that existed before there was light. That ocean that separates the land of the living from the land of the dead. You can hear my voice. Row to it. Come to me. Row to me from across that vastness. Leave the cold of those dead shores. Find the warmth of this place. The warmth of the living. Yes, the warmth of my bosom. She taps her fingers on the sapphire. We see now that her circle is drawn before Mary Alice's crib. There you are. I can feel you. I can feel you now. You don't need to concern yourself with the pettiness of the past. You don't have to concern yourself with how you came to be where you were. You certainly don't need to bother this poor, nice family anymore. The sapphire is actually shimmering now, glimmering, as if lit from an internal light. You're with me now, and we're going to keep having our conversations. You're going to whisper to me all of your secrets, everything you learned about the land of the dead. The St. James's Street ghost is now a servant of Theodore Brathwaite. Let's go to the dawn. The dawn phase. Let's take a look at night work, Dr. Mortimer, and see if there's something we need to do there. Make your choices. We'll probably just resolve it next time.
Yep, absolutely. I would love to acquire a body part for the child.
Fantastic.
And I would like to find a clue that can only be used for a future threat. And tell the keeper what it is.
You can sort that out next time if you'd like.
Yeah, absolutely. No, that sounds great.
And I think that's it then. Let's go to Dawn questions. Everyone gets credit for answering a capital Q question. We don't have to worry about the next two questions. Haskell, did you have a scene showing your secret private life in London?
I tried for one, but it was a little curtailed. But it was before I entered the house. I had an arrangement with someone to cause a distraction.
I know what you were going for. I think it fits. I could tell that's what you were trying to trigger. Did you ensure your employer got credit for your triumphs?
I did not, sadly.
Dr. Mortimer, let's go to you. Did you put your hands in a pile of guts this session and love every moment of it?
I believe I did. Hermes, rest in peace.
Indeed. Did you secretly engage in romantic or emotional behavior at odds with your aloof, logical exterior? I think Hermes again, right?
I would say Hermes. I would also say the small picture of Cecelie that I stole from Ms. Jean-Baptiste.
Fantastic. Ms. Quinn, did you let someone touch you and then make them pay a price for doing so? Yes, you did. Did you express a clear preference for the beautiful over the mundane?
Cecelie is not much of an artist, as we know, but she tried very hard to preserve the beauty of Merricat's devastated face.
Indeed. Ms. Jean-Baptiste, did you have a face-to-face encounter with a dark entity
Not really.
Not quite. Yeah, I don't think it quite hit there. Did you counsel someone using your supernatural affinities? Yes, you did, Mrs. Brathwaite, in fact. Fantastic. And then I think we will save Janus Mask and reflection things for next time. And in which case we'll go to Stars and Wishes. So whoever would like to take it away, please do.
I can go. Jess, Dr. Mortimer, thank you so much for a vulnerable scene that we did in the beginning. I appreciate Dr. Mortimer's practicality in all things that she does, but I did especially enjoy seeing you fully harness yourself and take control with DI Pettigrew, and still manage to get one over on him a bit, so your secret remains safe. That was very fun to watch. Oh, and I'm still lingering on you. I'm so sorry. The Mask of Apathy is Q's in the booth. Tragedy, a tragedy in 3 parts. Impressive. Haskell, Matt, I am so sorry you are waylaid by children again. It seems to be your lot in this game. But I did enjoy the little moment that I got of Haskell, like doing something other than being Mortimer's, what was the dog's body, and just like some of himself, every little bit of Haskell that we get to see where he's himself, I really enjoy seeing. Then Michelle, just the momentum that you took with solving the Reaver's last case, just fully flipping it on his head. It's now his brother that's the murderer, and you've killed him. Great job. Honestly, like 10 out of 10. But I do appreciate Cecilie's consistency with not allowing any man to touch her ever. It's very on brand for her. And Jason, thank you for not making me talk to that baby. It's very important for me. But no, Theodora, Mrs. Brathwaite is a very interesting mastermind, and I dread and adore seeing her in equal measure. So I love whenever she gets to come up. And yeah, I don't know, like great all around.
So I'll start with like something which is a little kind of like inside baseball, but like this is a congratulations to everyone, but also to Jason, that like in that vulnerable scene with the Doctor and Miss Jean-Baptiste, it was actually a really interesting illustration of this game's play culture, because we just sat and watched 2 players as characters ask each other questions that in other games would be framed by a GM, and I kept looking at Jason to think, I wonder if there's any point there's going to be an interjection here, but there was just no need, and we saw this play out beautifully, and it was just like everyone fully embraces that style of play on this table, and I really, really love that, and it's just kind of come so organically and naturally that it's kind of a joy to watch in action. I really enjoyed all your body scene prompts, Jess, are always really, really good. And like, I think in my home game and other games I've watched, they've always been quite kind of brief and kind of curtailed, but these ones kind of really hit quite hard. And it is really kind of what I kind of envisioned that role to be like, but I've never actually seen done before that way. So yeah, fair play. I also liked, going back to that vulnerable scene, the fact that Miss Jean-Baptiste was giving smacked up relationship advice. Just like That should be written into the Hargrave House rules that we can unlock that as a special move. I love Miss Quinn's investigation techniques. I really like the way you approach the Reaver. It made so much sense. I was going to do the Reaver today, but when you came back, and it made so much more sense for you to do it given your character. And I thought that you've kind of set that up really well for how we kind of resolve that next week. I just really love the Hargrave House night phases. I really, really like them. And I thought everyone kind of brought their prompts to that and kind of, brought that to life really beautifully. And I've got one wish, obviously, to keep playing and keep exploring this world, but I desperately want to see a Miss Quinn vulnerable scene.
It was hard to do with the undeniable. Yeah, I'll go. I started to Michelle for the whole like Reaver's last victim scene with the pharaohs was great. I really love that because it's sort of it's a real bold move to kind of like take what are basically the threat's assumptions, right? There's a lot of like baked in assumptions about what's going on there, and to be like, no, this is what's going on. I think the brother actually killed Anton, and that was just a great thing. And I love especially how we had this moment where it's like, oh, look at Ms. Quinn being like a member of the team and doing the work, and maybe even making up for the fact that she let Roger the Reaver just do his thing back in the day and didn't care. But oh no, never mind, she just killed this guy. So like it's very Dexter in a way. It's very like it's I don't know, it's pretty great. I loved that. That was a great scene. There's a part of me that wanted you to let the one misroll ride because I kind of love the idea of Mrs. Sparrow, you killing Mrs. Sparrow after all. It's just such an undeniable way to resolve the problem. So I don't know, but it's good. I will note here though for next time that because you bumped up that the Taketh Away move, you actually are entitled to something from your list on the move. So be thinking of that. So that was great. Jess, I thought all of your flashbacks, both the body prompts and the various masks, were really, really terrific today. Loved it. Also, I love the way you portrayed Maricat as well. That was really, really fun. Star for everyone on the ballroom narration, starting with building that amazing picture of like what the ballroom looks like, right? And then kind of getting into this moment with this poor servant of Hargrave House, and that was just great. And I love that we get this like texture that has no direct bearing on our current story. It kind of makes Hargrave House feel like a living, breathing, if you will, place. And so I really love it. I thought everybody did a great job. Really enjoyed the initiative that you took with Haskell in like going in that allegedly abandoned house, Matt. I thought that was a great move because it sort of kept me on my toes as the GM or as the keeper, because I didn't initially have any thoughts about like where I wanted that scene to go. And what was great about the way that all kind of came together was when Jess mentioned the smells of Christmas. And I was like, oh, I think I have a way in now. I kind of know how I want to do this. And so I just loved how all that came together. It was really great. But yeah, really terrific. Also, I thought I love the way you describe how Haskell interacts with like the street level London. Like that's always really fun to watch. And Wren, I have to say the way you played Ms. Jean-Baptiste in that vulnerable move scene was terrific. It was so good. I was like very, very here for that characterization. It was, I love it when you can like portray a character where it's recognizably that character, but changed just enough, just a little bit to show the change of what's going on with them. I don't think it's an easy thing to do. I think you did a really good job. And this, I really love this, like whatever's going on with Mrs. Brathwaite and Ms. Jean-Baptiste. It's been going on from session 1, right? Whatever it is, there's something there, right? And I really dig it. I think we have a better idea now because clearly Mrs. Brathwaite has plans related to the occult, right? But anyway, it's fun to explore. Yeah, that's all I got.
I have stats for everybody. This is kind of just a general one. I really like the fact that we concluded that the fable ended with several people dead and started with someone making a tiny faux pas, and we did not explain the in-between. And I actually, that sounds like a joke, but I really love that in like collaborative storytelling when we just all kind of collectively agreed to let that be unknown. I think that's really exciting in a story like this, that there are unknowns and we don't know the history of the house we're working in. I just love that. I love those opportunities to build like the background lore in the story, so that's delightful. I have a star for Wren. I don't usually write down things, but I had to write down when you said to Dr. Mortimer, "I hate the smug look in your voice." It just really, it sent me. It was so brilliant. And I also really love the drawings. We described those drawings of those different moments. Like that was so evocative, and like the way it built to like the one that you know Dr. Mortimer knows they couldn't have seen. It was so good. Loved that. Like that scene was chef's kiss. Jason, I loved that. I feel like many people would not be thrilled with the idea of like taking the assumptions of the threat and being like, I'm going to change it. So I just love the fact that you were like, you narrate the scene. No, wait, I'm coming in. Here I come. We're gonna do something cool here. And I love that.
And here's a keeper tip for people: like what you didn't change the question, right? Like the question is still the question, right? So it was fair game, I thought.
Yeah, I was a bit like, when I thought of it, I was like, oh, is this going to be like not allowed? But then I love that you just went with it, and then like we turned it into something much madder than I had in mind. So that was great. Matt, I also wrote something down for you today. I wrote down, which of you ladies wants to dance? I think someone else already said this, but I love when we see Haskell without the sensible, polite servant mask on, and we see like a little hint that he's got more to him. It delights me no end every time. I love how sick he is of babysitting haunted children. It's fantastic. And Jess, I wrote, well, initially I was going to say the single-mindedness about the body parts is always delightful, but I now love its kind of two-mindedness. It's like 50% acquire body parts, 50% like yearn for the beauty of Cecelie, and it just keeps stacking up. And I'm like, the more you do it, the more I'm like, Cecelie has no opinion on this, or does she? It's you're giving me so much delightful things for us to be able to role play without even having many scenes together. So that's so much fun. I'm loving it.
I will absolutely come in and pick up there, because I mean, there is something so brazen about going forward and saying, I'm going to solve a question by killing a guy. It came so far out of left field. I had no idea that was like the plan. And the minute it sort of set in, it was like, yes, of course. It's the obvious answer. You made it seem so obvious and so effortless and flawless. And it was just a beautiful sort of arc of logic sort of coming around. Of course, the brother is responsible. It was so brilliant. And I really enjoyed just how nonchalant you were about it still. It's so ingrained in the character. I love the nonchalantness of Cecelie to everything. Everything. There is nothing that raises her eyebrows. It's such a good character choice. And then Haskell, the dichotomy of, here is this portrait that I have spent hours cleaning, that I know so much about. Here are the layers. Let me detail them to you. Let me show off how much knowledge I have, combined with, I'll knock you. What was it? What was the line? It was like, I'll knock your head or something like that. And it's just this.
I'll knock you on the fucking head in a minute.
That's it. I'll knock you on the fucking head in a minute. And it was this dichotomy of polite servitude Haskell to scrappy Haskell in the back alleys, not giving a shit about who he's talking to. It's so hard to play one character, it feels like Haskell's playing two. And I'm absolutely blown away every time you bring that up. It's so good. Wren, the vulnerable scene, because we'd had a chat previously about like what might be in the scene, because it contained, obviously sort of like sensitive topics. But with the drug-addled nature of your speech and how well you made it seem like you were someone completely different, I wanted just to keep listening to the ravings and the ramblings, because the more you got into them, the more interesting they got. And I wanted to know, I was like, maybe I stumble into something about Phoebe here if we just keep prodding and poking. And I could have happily done that for like half an hour. You came up with some really, really detailed elements in that, and the drawings, the charcoal drawings, linking that back to when you were chatting to Haskell before with the charcoal at the arms. It's that narrative flow is so easy to follow with you. It's so much fun. And I just had a really nice time in that scene as well. I think that we complemented each other really, really well. And I felt really comfortable just being like, take your drugs, woman. So I had a really lovely time there. And Jason, this is the first narrative-driven story game I think I've played which feels so balanced at every given opportunity. We're now at a stage where it's like we've explored 2 rooms and they've both felt like the right choices to do at that given point. We've got 2 threats pretty much ready to resolve, 2 questions answered, and we've got that time to be able to explore the house. There's so much to play with, and because of how well it's been written, how balanced it is, we can play with it all. We're having our cake and eating it, and I love that we can do that, because that ballroom scene was something else. I really enjoyed everything that everyone brought to that. The opalescent floor, the engraving of the couple in the side. Oh God, it just, all of it came together so wonderfully. And now I want to play more. It's very late at night and I want to play again. So no, thank you very much for creating such an incredibly invested game. I feel very alive as a player. But yeah, thank you very much.
Well, I'd love to hear that. That's great. Thank you.
Thanks for watching, everyone, and especially a huge thanks to Jason and the Gauntlet for partnering up with us on this actual play and for letting us get our grubby little mitts on the nearly finished new edition of the game. And once again, a huge thank you to my patrons who help keep the lights on here and also allow me to do indulgent things such as this and pay my incredibly talented cast and crew for their time. Thank you, a million times thank you. I'll be back next time, but until then, it's farewell and safe passage.